now, as you can see, that's about 4 or 5 clicks to get to. So if we exit out of the menu, you can save your 10 favorites in this toolbox here by hitting customize. Then there's a list, the things that you're going to use a lot of, the iGo app, Transact, the Illustrator. I would save in the toolbox, then you can get to them a little bit quicker.
Yeah, that's what I have.
But for new agents, just remember when we jump into Life Illustrator, so TA Life Illustrator, it does pop into a new window. So make sure they don't have their pop-up blockers restricted or anything. And then you just click here to continue.
All right.
But now it brings us right in. I'll erase what we had going before. And yeah, we'll just get started now. Feel free to ask questions at any time. You can also take pictures of things with your phone. We have some good recordings in Agent Central that you can trek back to and always watch at any point. But yeah, anything you need, take notes, questions, just let me know. But we will dive in. I want to start with the top right, the producer tab. So this is just to double check everything's correct. If it's your first time coming in here, click on the producer tab. Most of this will be pre-filled for you for signing into the portal. But if anything needs to be corrected, go ahead and put that in and then save it to the database. That way, every time you run an illustration on the Life Illustrator, will have your agent information on that front page.
Okay.
But then you have the product and concept on the left. So today we're focusing on the FFIUL 2. So you always want to make sure that's the right product and concept in the corner that you're about to illustrate. But if you hit the big blue change button here, it's going to open up to all of our products. So the new final expense is ran through its own dashboard. So this is the old final expense if you were to do a paper app or one of the states like New York that hasn't approved it. But then you have lifetime, whole life, your term super, term living benefits, and then your IUL products here. So you can quote it all from here, but we're going to stay with the FFIUL 2 and we'll cancel out of that. Now, the first thing you'll see is a revised illustration and policy number. We don't need to worry about this for a new illustration, for a new sale. But if you have a pending case that's approved other than applied for, we need a new illustration. You can come in here and click the revised illustration and plug in that policy number and get right to it. But we'll be pretending this is a new sale. We're going to skip right over to the state. So we'll select Nevada. Whoops. Now, we're going to be doing a Jane Doe for today, so I'll just leave the name as valued client. The illustration date will always be now. That's never going to change. And then backdating is the same thing as saving age. So if they just crossed a birthday, they want to save age to get back to that previous age and save money in the long run, that's where they would plug that in, but it will increase that first premium. So be careful with, low budget clients. And then issue age or date of birth. So you can get by with just an age, but I highly suggest putting in the full date of birth. It's not a complete illustration without that full date of birth. So we'll be doing a 35-year-old female today. And then risk class. It is going to preset to the preferred elite. Now we don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. Preferred elite is tough to get. They need to be in exceptional health to receive the preferred elite risk class. So if we drop this down, you'll see there's many risk classes. You have your standard tobacco, preferred tobacco, then standard non-tobacco, preferred plus, and preferred elite. Now, cost of insurance is going to be cheapest at the preferred elite, but again, they have to be in exceptional health. Today, we're going to run a preferred risk class, but I do want to pop into the non-tobacco real quick. So if you do have a client who, I just got off the phone with an agent who their client dropped into a table rating because of their BMI. So if you have a client who can't necessarily get standard, the non-tobacco, we're not going to necessarily decline them right away, depending on what it is. They may drop into a table rating. So with the table ratings, we can go down to H, JL, and P or decline. And usually the underwriters would say this numerically. So table 1 is table A, table 2 is table B, table 3 is table C. But basically what this means is Table A is 100% of standard plus 25%. Table B is 100% of standard plus 50%. So you're paying an increase in cost because of a client who may be a little bit high risk. So that could be someone in a situation with COPD or, their BMI is a little off, whatever. So just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of how these work. Any questions with table ratings or anything so far? Okay. So we're going to leave that off. Now, below that, you also have a flat extra. So this is usually determined by an underwriter. So is the table rating, but a lot of times the guide will tell you, if they are dropping to a table rating. So always pre-underwrite your clients. Go through the underwriting guide. You also have underwriters available that can do risk assessments. They are available Monday through Friday, 12 to 5:30 Eastern time. So always pre-underwrite clients. But the flat extra, most of the time the underwriter will determine this. If it's permanent, then it goes up top. If it's temporary, it's going to be the second one. So, for example, let's say that the underwriter says they're going to pay $1.50 flat extra for the first 3 years. So it's $1.50 for 3 years. So this could be someone who is a high net worth non-resident and they're from a D country, or this could be someone who skydives all the time, or paraglides, or scuba dives to deep depths, or recreationally flies planes. So their hobbies or lifestyle are high risk. They might have to pay a flat extra.
Okay.
So usually a niche, unique client. But for easy math, what does $1.50 flat extra mean? So if we have a $100,000 death benefit, again, for easy math, $1.50 flat extra is an extra $150 in that year. Okay. It's not monthly. If they're paying their monthly premium, they'd keep paying the monthly premium, but they'd have an extra $150 on top of that because of the flat extra. Now, if it went up to $200,000 death benefit, $1.50 flat extra is now $300 extra in that year. So the larger the death benefit, the more or the more expensive that flat extra will be. But that's a flat dollar cost on top of that premium.
Jesse, one sec. Jasper said he has a question.
Yeah, go ahead. I can't hear him. Can you hear him?
I can't hear him.
You can use the chat. There's a chat on the top bar, on the top of your screen on the far left. There's a chat. For some reason, we can't hear you, but you could type any questions in the chat, and then we could get to those that way as well.
You see it, Jess?
I haven't seen a question come in yet. Oh, you were talking. I'm going to take this off, but I will wait for his question before we move on. Okay. So I'll just get to his question if it comes in the chat. But this is the insured section. We put that all in. We're going to be doing a preferred risk class, female 35 out of Nevada here. The next step is our policy design. So this is our spinning wheel. This is how we're going to build out the whole illustration. And this is where it can get a little bit tricky. Now, today we're going to pretend that we know their budget. So we're going to do a premium of $500 monthly. So we type in 500 into the premiums, and we're going to be doing face solves because of that. So we'll come back to what target means and all of that. The first thing I want to talk about is the test. So you have the guideline premium test versus cash value accumulation test. Now the test is permanent, but if we go into Agent Central, and I'll put this in the chat, I'll also email this to you. I think I showed it last time, but at Agent Central, you can come in here now on the new agents tab. You have something called Insurance 101. When we hit on new Insurance 101, there's going to be some really good guides in here. So term versus permanent insurance, understanding premiums. Then you have the life insurance tests. So the 7-pay test, our max fund, level versus increasing in debt graded, guideline premium test versus cash value accumulation test. So you can hit the get the details here. Now it pops open. Most of the time, we're going to be doing the guideline premium test. It's typically used when a client is more interested in lifetime cash accumulation with maximum policy distributions rather than maximizing the death benefit. But when we're on target, even, we're going to be using that GPT always. Now, CVAT is used for niche designs, niche clients. So if they have a huge 1035 exchange or a huge lump sum coming in where it's front loading the policy with a ton of money in that first year, we might have to switch to like a CVAT increasing design. Or more commonly, if they're max funding the 7-pay premium as long as possible, then the CVAT's going to be a better design. So when we come back over here, Ray, do you have a question?
So on, the CVAT, if you've already set it up as a CVAT, can that be switched to
No,
GPT?
it's permanent. It's permanent, but it's not a big deal. It's not like a huge difference. The GPT can keep costs down a tiny bit compared to the CVAT, but the CVAT's kind of designed for when we're front loading or max funding a ton of money to bring it in to control the death benefit a tiny bit more.
Okay.
But yeah, the test is permanent.
Okay. Yeah, just in case, there's always that question that pops up that, hey, will that ever change,
the death benefit option, though. Yeah, the death benefit option. So what we'll get into next. So again, if we're paying the target premium, and we'll get into that more, it's GPT. But the next thing is the death benefit option. So level, increasing, graded. You also have this optimal switch. So the optimal switch is just for illustration purposes. It's going to optimally design the death benefit from, starting increasing and switching to level at the optimal age, depending on the funding, the cost of insurance, and all of that. But when we switch our death benefit option, the client has to call in to enforce. So the optimal switch is just for illustration purposes. All right. But we'll now go over the other three. So if we come back to Agent Central, you have the level, increasing, and graded death benefit options. So we get that flyer, it opens up. Same kind of thing. We can teach ourselves by using the resources. So first off, you have level death benefit option. With level, the risk is going to decrease. We have a level death benefit, we're funding more money into the policy. Ultimately, our risk is decreasing. But we usually only use level for clients who are older or unhealthy. Those who have a high cost of insurance, we don't want to fuel the fire by throwing an increasing death benefit on them. So with that being said, if you have someone who's young and healthy like our situation, graded or increasing is probably going to be a good option or a better option. It just kind of depends on what their funding looks like and all of that. But increasing, the risk is staying flat. Okay, but it's growing with the cash value. So with increasing, you're growing at the same pace as the cash value. If we start with 500,000 death benefit, we grow 250,000 in cash value over time. Our death benefit's now up to 750,000, as long as we haven't taken out any loans or withdrawals. So it's growing with the cash value. If you're young and healthy, you want to maximize the death benefit over time. An increasing or graded, an option where it's growing can be a good solution. And we can also go with strategies where we start the death benefit low and let it grow. That way, in those early years, the cost of insurance is very low, so that it helps grow that cash value. But then you have graded. So graded is the same thing as increasing until age 70. Starting at age 71, it takes time to level back off, but that depends on the funding. If we aren't funding tremendously well, it could take 20, 25 years to level off. That means it's increasing all the way to 80, 90, which the cost of insurance is getting very rapidly more expensive at those ages when we're still increasing. So the idea is you'd want to encourage your clients to get back to level when they stop paying in or they start taking out loans. So if they are on a graded option and they start to retire at 65 and start using a bunch of money or stop paying in, the graded's not going to start getting back to level till a minimum of 71. So we probably would want to still get them back to level just to control that cost of insurance, know where money's coming in. So increasing or graded, you can kind of use pretty much the same strategy, but graded, if they're going to be retiring, use that money in the 70s, it can be, a great option. But we come back now. Today we have a young, healthy 35-year-old. We're doing preferred. She probably wants to go with an increasing option so that she can maximize her death benefit over time. So we're going to do increasing and switching the level at some point, but we'll get into that a little bit more. Now you can switch the death benefit option after 3 years. So the first 3 years of the policy, they're locked into what they started with. Increasing, they're staying increasing for 3 years. But anytime they want to change that death benefit option, they have to call into Enforce. Now, Jazz, I saw that you had a question, what is Preferred Elite? Preferred Elite is just the best risk class. So risk classes are going to depend on their health, their age, their criminal record, their motor vehicle report. All of that can affect your risk class, your hobbies. So if someone's in very, very good health, they have a clean sheet, everything like that, they can get the Preferred Elite. Usually they need to still be relatively young to get a really good risk class like that. But yeah, Preferred Elite is just the best risk class, meaning it's the cheapest cost of insurance. So I hope that answered the question. But then we get into the face amount. So today we're going to be doing face solves, because if I know the client's budget, I'm going to use face solves to determine how much the budget will buy. And I'll email you this note. You could save this to a Word doc or anything. But the target face solve is what we'll start with. It's more focused on death benefit coverage. It's going to take the budget, the $500 a month, and solve for the higher face amount where we're just paying in the target premium. So higher face amount, less cash value compared to the other two options that we'll get into. So we're going to start with target. Again, that's the bottom of the ladder, high death benefit, less cash value. As you move up the ladder, it gets more aggressive. So if you look at guideline here, more focused on cash value. It takes the budget and solves for a lower face amount where we're aggressively funding the guideline premium. So lower face amount, less cost of insurance, it's going to pump more cash value. Then mid non-mech. So the mid non-mech is our max funded scenario. This is when we must switch over to the CVAT. But it takes the budget and solves for the lowest face amount where we're max funding the case with the 7-pay premium. Now 7-pay doesn't necessarily mean we're always paying in 7 years. Depends on the design that we're building. But again, now we're max funding. So in that scenario, if we jump up to this mid non-mech, we're going to be switching over to the cash value accumulation test. But today we're starting at target. So target will be guideline premium test. But then you have this auto face reduction here. I would always leave that off as long as we're funding the policy correctly. We don't need that. And it displays very weird in the illustration. We have our premium of $500 monthly, and your lump sum is here. So the lump sum is where we can dump in extra cash on top of that first premium. So if they're paying $500 a month, but they want to dump in an extra $10,000 with that first premium, it can really help pump that cash value in those early years, subject to that 7-pay limit still. Now, the next thing is the 1035 exchange. So if you have a replacement coming over from a different IUL or whole life into this product, we need to know the exchange amount and the cost basis. The cost basis is the total premium paid in. From there, they would dump that in. If they have multiple exchanges, you can keep adding these in up to 5. But as mentioned earlier, if the exchange amount is a huge amount, or if your lump sum is a huge amount, sometimes you're probably going to need to go to CVAT increasing, because GPT level, you might get an error when you run the illustration with a ton of money coming in that first year. And then the avoid mech, I'd always leave that on so we don't overfund this into a modified endowment contract. We want to keep it tax advantaged, so we leave that there. But the other thing we'll get into is these calendars. So the calendars expand the row that they're next to. So today we have a 35-year-old. She probably doesn't want to pay forever. So we're just going to pretend that she wants to pay to age 65 when we hope to retire. So if we open up the calendar here, next to the premium, it's always going to be paying from year 1 to max. Max would be age 121 or the last year of the policy. But who's ever going to pay that long? So if they want to pay 30 years, it's 1 to 30. if we want to illustrate this to an age, we put in the A, and then I'm going to be doing age 65. So we're paying from year 1 to age 65 at a $500 monthly premium. And then we hit OK to lock that in. So next to the calendar, or next to the row, calendar opens, we plug it in. But as I mentioned, we don't want to be increasing forever. Once we stop paying in, once we start taking money out, we probably want to get back to a level death benefit option to control the cost of insurance. So next to death benefit option, you have another calendar. We open it up, same thing as before. Same year we stop paying, age 65. But there's one extra step here. We use the drop down here to bring in level. The next age would be age 66. And then here we'll drop down into max. So with that being said, we would have to call in at age 65 to switch our death benefit over. So this part is just for illustration purposes. But we lock that in. Now we're paying $500 a month to age 65, and we're increasing until switching at that same age. But any questions so far? Okay. Got another one jumping in here. But the next thing that we'll get into is our index accounts. So the index accounts, that's where your growth potential comes from. Now, it is going to preset to 100% global, but this is for you and your clients to decide what is the best option for them. You're never really touching this basic interest. You can see that's 3.5%. The basic S&P index with no index account monthly charge has a lower cap of 9%, but it has no index account charge. The balance, the S&P and the global have an annual charge of 0.72%. And I do a training where I go over this in way more detail. But I've seen a lot of agents doing splits. You might do 50-50 of the S&P and global. I've seen agents doing a 25-25 and 50 to the uncapped. The uncapped is our new index, has 113% participation. It still has 2/3 full market equity coming from the S&P and the Nikkei 225 out of Japan. But as you can see, the uncapped, the S&P and the global can now illustrate up to 7.25%. With the old IUL, it was 7%. So we can illustrate a little bit higher with the FFIUL too. But I'll just leave it as a split like this for today.
Jesse, quick question.
Yep, go ahead.
So on the FFIUL 2, of course, some of the people that had the other one with the global index with, let's see,
the Hang
S&P
Seng
500, Hang Seng, and then
Euro.
now that the S&P, or rather the uncapped, is available, a lot of them are saying, hey, you know what, can I switch over to that?
Well, yeah, they could do a 1035 exchange if it's the right fit. So with the 1035 exchange, we are going to check underwriting again. Mm-hmm. So if it's been a long period of time or their health has changed, they probably won't get the same cost of insurance into the new IUL. Now, with the internal 1035 exchange like that, they also have to increase their death benefit by 25% to avoid surrender charges, because surrender's after 15.
There's no future enhancements that would allow, their existing FFIUL, and let's say next year, hey, I want to switch over to that balance uncapped. So there's no enhancement. There's no.
As of right now, there's no uncapped available on the FFIUL 1. There is talk of the indices changing a little bit on the current book of business. I don't know exactly what the date is for that change, but it's in the positive direction. But yeah, as of right now, the FFIUL 1 doesn't have the option to get an uncapped index. They would have to do a 1035 exchange into the IUL 2.
Okay. Thanks.
Great question, though. Now, income and targeting, that's how you add the loans and withdrawals. Your clients need to call in when they want to take loans and withdrawals. So that's just for illustration purposes as well. And it's more for advanced illustration. So we can definitely focus a further training on the income and targeting if you have a client who wants to see the money coming out. But we're going to skip over to the riders. So for riders, you'll see the terminal illness is automatically included. So it's automatically built into the policy. That's 12 months or less to live, living benefit. Overloan protection is built in to protect them from taking too large of loans and lapsing the policy early. But that's built in only when you use guideline premium tests. So if we're like max funding, or on that CVAT, we lose that rider. And then the concierge planning is the free Everest Funeral Services rider if the death benefit's $250,000 or more. So there are a couple states that haven't approved this yet, but Nevada has, Colorado, Utah, the states around you for the most part. But the chronic and critical living benefits, these have to be added in. So you have to add them to the application. You have to add them to the illustration. They have to be elected at issue. All 3 living benefits are free until we use them. But you need to add chronic and critical in. So that's very, very important. A lot of new agents don't realize that. They think it's automatically included like terminal, but they are not. But these 5 riders would come at no additional cost. And then down below, you have different things like children's rider, the long-term care. If you have your health insurance, you can offer long-term care. The long-term care is tremendous. It does cost a little bit extra, but we do see $1,000 higher target premium with the rider than without. So you're, making a little bit more money while offering a very affordable long-term care solution. But for today, we're going to leave the 5 free riders on there, or riders that come at no additional cost. And the last step is our output design. So here, this is where you pick the extra pages that aren't required in the illustration. So the input summary, I would always leave that on. That's the last 2 pages showing exactly what we inputted so you can recreate the illustration. And then the tax bracket and strategy here. So we only need to know their tax bracket if they're using this personal accumulation strategy, which, I've never used before, but it's for very wealthy clients who want to pick their pre-tax growth weight. Most of the time, they're going to be looking at the FFIUL design for that anyway. So, 99% of the time, we're ignoring the strategy and ignoring the tax bracket. You can add in, things like the cost and values ledger. I really like the snapshot, the Y Transamerica. And then the cover photo now relates to the client to pull on the heartstrings or tell a story right up front. So you can click here to view all the picture options. And up top, you'll have sports or hobbies or people in a work environment for those who don't have children. And then down below, father and son at a baseball game, families, different options in here. You have couples, Native American options, or just the simple Transamerica pyramids. So today we'll pretend that the client, doesn't have any children. She really likes soccer, so we'll just select the soccer game. So when we're here, it's alphabetical order. We just drop it down to soccer game. And that will be our cover page. So now we're ready to go. I do like to go back to the policy design before I solve. Again, we're paying $500 a month to age 65, increasing to age 65. And we're going to start with target. So target, high death benefit focus. It's going to solve for that higher death benefit. But we're ready to go. And we calculate. Excuse me. Now, it is going to come right into our non-guaranteed current ledger. So this is our summary. The cover page is where the actual illustration starts. When you're running multiple illustrations for a client, I would go to the cover page, save, come back, then go on to the next one. But with that being said, we'll do that later. And I always open up this snapshot. So this is going to show you your initial face amount. Now with target, our focus was the high death benefit. So we're getting up to 642 to start, and we're increasing from there. We're paying $500 a month, which is $6,000 per year. And that's right at the target. The target premium, $6,000 annually. Then you'll see the other options here. And these are all annual amounts other than that modal up here. But the 7-pay, the max fund, $36,000. So basically, they have, $30,000 to work with in that first year, right? And in the years beyond to pump this more and get it up to that max fund so that your cash value is going to be growing better. So if they got an inheritance or a huge bonus, they're able to dump in a lot more before they're going to be capped out. Okay. And then you have the guideline annual. So as we showed in our note, it's a little bit more aggressive, somewhere in the middle of the target and the 7-pay in this example. But again, the more we fund into this, the better the cash value would grow in this example, because we're all basing this off of that $500 monthly. So down at the bottom, you also have the MNLP, minimum no lapse premium. So with that, I would never start a policy there. If the client loses a job, they get in a bind, they need to pay the MNLP for a year or two, try and get back up to target as soon as possible. If your client can't afford the target, then I highly suggest that you lower the death benefit. The higher the death benefit, the higher the target premium. The higher the death benefit, the higher the 7-pay. So if we were to start this at like $500,000 and increase from there, the target's going to be a little bit more affordable. So that's something that you could look at if they can't afford this target number. But we base this off a budget, so the client told us they have $500 a month, so that's how we designed it, hypothetically. But then it also shows it doesn't lapse or endow till age 121. You can see that by scrolling to the bottom here. And I'm going to go back up. So most of the time, unless they're max funding in certain niche situations, it's going to take till year 15 to start to see that cash value catch up to the policy value. Because in the beginning, it takes time for the cash value to grow. The policy value here is what the policy is worth in that year. We really want this to catch up to each other, because then from there on, they're going to match. And also at this point, they've surpassed the cumulative premium. So I kind of jumped the gun, but to read this, you have the year, your age, your premium, loans and withdrawals, which you didn't add today, cumulative premium, policy value, which is what that policy is worth, cash value, what you can borrow against, and then your death benefit. We're increasing here, so it's growing. But back to 15, as you can see, before that, the cash value is always a little bit behind the policy value. And in the beginning, they're both going to be behind the cumulative premium. You really want this to accumulate and grow. So now you actually have growth in the policy. We paid in $90,000. We're at $99,000 in policy value and cash value. Anytime you're taking loans super early, it's going to affect the policy a lot more than when we've actually had some real true growth in this. But today, we're going to be comparing age 66 when we stop our premiums. So at age 66, it goes to 0. They paid in 180. The death benefit got up to the cash value got up to 370,000. So we more than doubled the total premium paid in on our most conservative solve with the target there. And we leveled off at 993. So the focus here was to have a high death benefit. We did the target solve. Someone who has multiple children, a mortgage, they needed that high death benefit. Why did we level off though? Because we have no more money coming in here. We still want the growth to be accumulating, especially, when they're waiting to take loans. But at that age, we level off to control the cost of insurance because there's no more premium. So I'm going to show you how I use that little note. Again, you do not have to use this note by any means. I'll send it to you. But if you don't find it useful, you don't have to use it. You can also do the add plan here and copy the current plan. And it's very similar to the note that I'm about to show you. So if we're on the target premium, this is the first one we did. We expand, cash value and death benefit. And our initial face amount was $642,000. So we can't compare yet, but we saw again that this one got up to $370 cash, $993 in death benefit before we leveled off. So what we're going to do is run the other solves, and this is the easiest way to learn how the IUL works. So I suggest, especially for new agents, to take this training and try and go home, study and practice this exact thing. Take the training wheels off, run an illustration maybe on yourself or someone close to you, whatever, and try the different solves, change around the death benefits, because that's how you're going to really learn this product to the T. Now, We could go on the cover page and save this if it was a live client. I'll do that at the end, but we're going to go to the case design here. We're going to make one change, which will be 2 clicks. So the target's going to go up to guideline, 1 step up the ladder. Now we're focusing more on a lower face amount for better cash value. So that's the only change. Everything else stays the same. Target to guideline. We calculate again. This time we lost the Everest Concierge Planning Rider because the death benefit's starting below 250. So we just go back to the ledger to hit our summary. You can go in the cover page and save this, but I'm gonna open up the snapshot. You'll see the initial face amount is now 161, way lower cost of insurance. It was 642 last time. Our monthly premium is still 500, but the target premium is 1,500 per year. The more we pay above target, the better the cash value is going to grow. That's what you want to engrave into your head. The more we pay above target, the better the cash value will grow. The higher the death benefit, the higher the target premium. So with the 7 pay here, it's now at 9,200. We're paying in the 6,000. The guideline right at 6,000. That's what we solve for. So you only have about 3,200 each year to dump in as that max limit. But it's pumping the cash value a lot better. So if we come down to age 66, and this is still running all the way to 121, but we come down to age 66, same amount of premium came in, and we leveled off at 610,000. So we go ahead and we copy, and we do the steps we did before. We come into the guideline, and now we can start comparing. So we expand those last 2 rows for death benefit and cash value. This time 161, I believe, right? Okay, it's frozen. Yeah, 161. So the initial face, 161. So our cost of insurance is much lower here. We get up to about 610,000 death benefit, right? This one got up to almost $1 million. But we get $477,000 in cash value versus 370. So we got about 107,000 more in cash value because we focus us more on that cash value growth. Okay, we went to a lower death benefit. It lowered that cost of insurance. We're paying the same premium, so nothing changed there. Ultimately, it helps pump the cash value better. So now we'll do the min non-mech and show you the slight differences between max funding and the guideline. So again, you can go to cover page and save this. We're just going to go to the case design. We're going to do 2 changes here. So we went from target to guideline. Now we're jumping to the min non-mech. We're now max funding. So we're going to switch GPT to CVAT. So those are the 2 changes. Now we calculate. So basically the same steps. All we're doing is changing the solve, which is ultimately just changing the death benefit. So we lost the Everest Rider again. It's going to even lower death benefit. Now we're starting at 105, same exact premium, but the 7 pay is now the 6,000. So in this example, we come down, stopped our premium, same amount of money, but let's check out what happened here. And because we're max funding, we aren't even able to level off until we start taking loans. It's just going to continue to grow because we've max funded this out. But we go back to our note with age 66. We paste it in. Now, this one started at 105. So now we can compare these 2 first because they're cash value focused. So 161 versus 105. We got up to 610 here in death benefit, but watch what happens here. We get up to 736 in death benefit on that max fund. And we get up to 486 in cash versus 477, so about 9,000 more in cash, plus about 126 more in death benefit. But what did we do? We found a range. So based off the same client, 35, preferred, female, paying the same length of time, increasing in level. The range, your target, 642. Your max fund, 105. For this same exact scenario, you can now solve for anything in between that. Plus, if your clients are worried about having these low death benefits, 105, what happens if I pass away in these early years? You can always pitch the Trendsetter Super Trendsetter LB on the side. That way they have a cheap $500,000 term, to supplement while this IUL is growing up to, 700,000. But we have a range, 642 to 105. The 642 to 105. We can go back to the case design. Let's say that your client really wants that Everest rider. They know they need to start at 250. So we just erase the solve, put in 250. Now we're doing a specify all. We have the premium and the death benefit in here. We go back to GPT since we aren't max funding, and boom, we solve again. Now, back to the ledger, we're paying the death benefit's 250 and increasing from there. So they have the Everest rider. The target's at 2,300. We're still paying the 6,000. So we're above target. It's going to grow pretty well. You come down, and now we can compare one more time. So I don't have a sentence for this 250, but we can paste it in here. And your 250 now has the Everest rider, more in the middle, still gets up to 461 in cash, so way better than the first one still, 90 grand. And then we still get up to about 684 in death benefit. Plus, it has the Everest from the beginning. So this is how I use the note. I'll be emailing this to you. Again, you don't have to, use this if you don't find it useful, but you can save it to a Word doc if you do. This is kind of how I do this real quickly. But as I mentioned, you can hit this add plan, copy the current plan, and then basically it's going to mirror exactly what we just did. But let's say that we want to now do 300,000. So we're just going to switch this to 300. Oops. We calculate again. And now you have the 250 and the 300 being compared up top. So 250, 300, you got the cash value at certain ages over here to show the differences. If you want to go back to the 250, you just click on it. Now we're back on the 250. So pretty cool there. But questions for me, what we're looking at here, I know for new agents, it's a lot at first. But like I said, you got to get in here, practice, take the training wheels off, switch around the solve, switch around the death benefits. That's the best way you're going to learn not only how to run illustrations, but in my opinion, the best way to learn the product because it teaches you how the cost of insurance works.
Mhm. I have a question.
Well, I guess, I have a question too. After you, Hun.
Ladies first.
So, if someone is max funding, will they know? Will you guys tell us if they reached the cap amount, or like
Yeah, well, it's really going to depend on if they're increasing or if they're level, because the increasing the cost of insurance is growing, so we can fit in the max fund for a little longer period of time. But anytime that you get to the max fund limit, they would have to go through underwriting to increase any more. So they would get a warning like, hey, you've max funded for the year. We can't put any more in unless you want to go through underwriting to increase your death benefit. So yeah, and when they're taking loans, when they reach out to Enforce, if they're trying to take a massive loan that's really going to affect their policy, the Enforce team is going to give them a warning like, hey, maybe you want to take a little bit less amount and space this out. Otherwise you're going to eat up a huge chunk of your surrender value.
Okay.
So yeah, they're we have resources to protect them and at least be warning them of if they. But at the end of the day, your client can do whatever they want with their policy. So you just gotta be educating them on the risks of doing things like huge loans really early in the policy.
Okay. Right. Thanks.
All right, my turn. So, when they start out with, I think the first, the other illustration you created where the Everest is not included right away. And then by the time their cash value starts hitting at the 250 mark, does Everest, can they add that in? Or
So
is it automatic?
I believe once they, and Eric can attest to this too, I think, but I believe once they get over the 250, they have the Everest. So as long as they're over 250, they have to be 250 or more to have the Everest rider. Now it works the opposite direction as well. If they're a client who has a 250 level death benefit, they start to take out loans and it lowers the death benefit below 250, they lose the Everest rider. But I'll triple check to make
Jesse.
sure. Yep.
Jesse, yeah, the initial base amount has to be at least 250K.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
It can't grow to it. It has to be at least 250 permanent base up front. And then as far as loans go, a loan will not cause the rider to be removed. However, a withdrawal will.
Okay, so just the withdrawals. Okay.
Yeah, because
So if you're withdrawing from your basis.
Yeah, because the loan doesn't lower your death benefit until they cancel the policy or they pass away, etc. However, a withdrawal reduces that amount immediately.
Yep.
And then last but not least, living benefit or long-term care accelerations will not cause the rider to drop off. It's just if that withdrawal causes the face to go below 250.
Okay, so the withdrawal. So thanks for correcting me on that one, Eric.
Yeah, you're welcome.
But yeah, does that answer all your questions there, Ray?
Yep,
Any
yep,
other
yep.
questions
And,
for me?
I think that kind of answers like the other illustration you created, where fast forward at 60, now the death benefit is now 700,000, and then the client decides, hey, you know what, I want to start taking income from the cash value. Although that death benefit was locked in, once the cash value starts to decrease, that death benefit also.
Yeah, if they're taking the withdrawals, yes.
Yeah.
But as Eric said, right, if it's a loan, then the death benefit won't reduce until they've sadly passed away.
Okay. So loan, just get a loan.
Yeah, but
Yep.
the great.
Loan, long-term care, living benefit accelerations are okay. It won't cause the rider to be removed. However, cash withdrawals will if the face drops below 250.
Perfect.
Good question.
Happy I had Eric here on this one.
I have a question.
Yep.
So, if a child is 17 years old, for example, this March, we apply for a child that's 17 and he's turning 18 on like the end of March.
Are you talking about, can he add the living benefits or
Yes.
like a long-term care?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a brand new rule. From 18 to 21, they can exchange to add long-term care. But I believe it's still in the works for living benefits, right, Eric? They can't add the chronic or critical yet.
No, that living benefits and long-term care you can do the internal 1035 for clients
both,
18 to 21 with no face amount increase required.
Yep. So in the past, if they wanted to do that, it's an internal 1035, so they'd have to increase the death benefit by 25%. But now from 18 to 21, they have a window where they can avoid increasing the death benefit and avoid surrender charges.
So we're just, for example, he's 17 and about to turn 18. We just wait until he gets he's 18 to apply for the for an insurance if he doesn't have any,
Well, I mean, you could get it going right away at 17, and then do the exchange to add that rider if you wanted to,
Okay.
or you could wait if they want to. But again, that's kind of up to the family's decision. How important are those riders for them to have right away, or if they want to get the cash value growing at age 17 versus 18.
Okay. And then last question, if you started it increasing and then you wanted to change it to level, you have to call it in, you said, right?
Yep. And in the first 3 years, you can't. So after 3 years, you can, and they have to call into Enforce to switch from increasing the level.
And if, for example, they want to change it again to increasing.
Anytime you go from level to increasing, that initiates more underwriting.
So yeah, so that there's underwriting involved.
Correct.
Yes.
And
So
also,
if they had a level death benefit, they wanted to go to increasing one day, yeah, that would initiate more underwriting, like a underwriting check.
correct. And also, just to add, if you have long-term care on that policy, you're not able to do level to increasing or request face amount increases because we don't allow increases on the face amount for policies with long-term care.
Oh, okay. So I thought that, you can do that. All right.
You just want to be, with the long-term care rider, you'd want to be increasing from the beginning if they want to, have that an increasing death benefit. Because the long-term care rider can increase, but not if they start as a level.
So if it's a level, you have to do an internal, like a new.
Correct.
All right.
Yep.
A new policy.
If you want a higher face amount or you want the death
Sorry.
benefit option to go to increasing on a policy with long-term care, correct.
All right. Okay. Wow. That's all right. That's good. That's good to know.
But yeah, you can go from increasing or graded to level.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to initiate any of that, but just not for the first 3 years.
All right. Thank you.
But yeah, I'm going to go on the cover page. I got a few minutes here, and then I have a meeting right at the 30. But I want to really make sure you're all using this. So first, you can save from here. That's going to save it to your actual computer. You can also hit share to email and save. That's the same save button. But I also would hit cases and save it to the system. So cases and then saves it to the Life Illustrator. And then this will save it to your downloads or however you have that set up. And if, let's say the 300 was the one that they wanted, or we're on the 250 now, you can hit the eApp button. It's going to jump right into the eApp and attach the, illustration for you. And you can also hit the share to go to the IGO eApp as well. So there's a couple buttons that do the same thing. Now, you can hit the arrow here to zoom in and out. So here's our cover page, agent, all that good stuff. But I'm going to go to page 9 to talk about the projections. So your guarantee projection, the 0.75, that's if we're hitting the floor every year. I like to call this a zombie apocalypse, right? It's not realistic. And then the blue is your basic interest, the 3.5%, which we're never really doing that unless it's a very unique situation. And then the 7.25, that's going to be your global, your S&P, or your uncapped, the one, what we ran for all of our illustrations today. So the purple is your selling ticket. So if we scroll down, you'll see the green's going to lapse early. The blue lapsed up here. And then the purple is going to run all the way to 121 as long as we fund this correctly. One other really important thing before I let you go, and this is on every single illustration as well as the agent portal, but this is your historical index return, and you can click here to see the full version. But you're going to have every index, so global, S&P, uncapped, the cap rates and all that, and then their performance. So light shaded is how it performed that year. Dark is what we credited in that year. And then you have the 10, 15, 5 and all that 20-year averages down here at the bottom. So this is really going to help you sell. It's going to show the history over time. Again, it's on every illustration, but it is also on the portal. But yeah, that's what I have for today. I know it's a lot to go over, and we could do this more and more. We could go back over the illustrator multiple times, and what I'll do is send out a follow-up with that note and the Agent Central portal and a list of all the trainings that I do, because we can just continue to schedule. I know you said you want to maybe do every other week now or whatever. That's totally fine. So I'll just send you the list, and you let me know if we want to get into long-term care versus living benefits or foreign nationals or anything. So we can get into any of that.
15 seconds. Quick question. Follow up on that juvenile. So client is 16 years old. Hey, I know there's that underwriting that says from 18 to 21 you can switch from to add the long-term care
Yeah, without increasing the 25%.
without increasing. But will that require another underwriting for like health and so on and so forth?
Well, yeah, they're going to check because a juvenile risk class is like a standard. You know, most 18-year-olds, you know, they can get up to the preferred plus, preferred elite. So, you know, that's something that I would always suggest anyway at 18, so that they can get those better risk classes to have better growth.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, Jesse. Thanks, Eric.
Well, yeah, thank you so much. And I'll send a follow-up with a list, and we'll do whatever trainings you want to do next.
Awesome. We will.
All righty.
Well, we'll get
Have a
more
great day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Nice to meet you guys. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Eric.